Hello, my name is Dr. David A. Bray, and thank you for the opportunity to address you virtually regarding the Haiti Tech Summit. I wish I could be there in person with you. I wear different hats. I'm an Eisenhower Fellow who traveled in 2015 to Australia and Taiwan to talk to their world leaders about how they were getting ready for the Internet of Everything across sectors both private and public. I'm also at Harvard, where I actually serve as a visiting executive in residence, thinking about how leaders can make decisions in turbulent environments in our rapidly changing world. And finally, I also serve as the Chief Information Officer for the Federal Communications Commission, where I'm nonpartisan and am focused on actually empowering change agents to help transform the technology the FCC uses to accomplish its mission. And in wearing those different hats, I've had a chance to see how our world is changing not just rapidly, not just linear changes, but exponential changes. And let me put that in perspective for you. Back in 2013, there were 7 billion network devices, give or take, on the face of the planet, relative to only about 7.1 billion human beings. Less than 2 years later, 2015, 14 billion network devices, a doubling. And estimates are now by 2022, less than 5 years from now, estimates are anywhere between 75 and 300 billion network devices on the face of the planet, if current trends continue. That's not linear change, that's exponential change. Similarly, the amount of data is doubling on the face of the planet at least every 2 years, if not faster. Such that again, by 2022, less than 5 years from now, estimates are that there's going to be 96 billion terabytes. To put it into perspective, 96 billion terabytes is by some more data than all conversations we've ever had as a human species times 2. There's also some estimates that place 96 billion terabytes by 2022 as more data than all human eyes see on the face of the planet during the course of a year. That's not linear change. That's exponential change, and it's going to challenge how we find information, how we make sense of information, how we address information. We've also seen in the last 7 years rapid gains in terms of what machine learning and artificial intelligence can do. We've seen it win at chess. We've seen it win at Jeopardy. Now we can actually see AI that actually wins at Go. Supposedly a very complicated game for humans, and now the machine can actually trump the human experts. There's also been competitions to see if machines can actually grade papers as good as a third grade teacher, find sentence mistakes, find grammar mistakes, and help correct it. Back in 2013, someone actually won that competition for about $60,000. Later, we've also seen advances where machine learning is actually trying to make recommendations as to which meetings you should go to in the working place, which meetings you should not go to, and if you do go to those meetings, who should go with you. We've also seen advances in image recognition, where now people can actually start to draw their version of a cat or a dog or other images such as that, and the machine can guess it in less than 20 seconds. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the rapid amount of change that's happening in our world. And if you think about it, for most of our human species, there was a time in which you only saw 80 people in your entire lifespan, back when we were nomads, and in that time period, those 80 people were most of your family members, not strangers. Nowadays, in our modern world, most of us are going to run into 80 people or more on a daily basis who are definitely not our family members. And at the same time, we are all humans. And so for me, this presents this interesting challenge of we are definitely in a foreign incognita, unknown territory for the world we're going into. It's rapid change involving data, involving network devices, involving bots and artificial intelligence. It is new. And it raises questions about how should we live? How should we exist as societies? What rules should we have? Now, again, I'm nonpartisan in my role that I currently serve, and I raise these questions more to think globally about how we can begin to make a positive difference wherever we're at. Not all of us have the luxury of ever working for an organization that has infinite resources, or near infinite resources. There are those people and those opportunities, but most of us have to address organizations that have challenges. Either they've been around and they've adopted legacy processes that no longer fit what they need to do in the world ahead. Or they've been around and they have challenges in terms of scarce resources. Or maybe they're no longer focused on the market they should be doing. And that gets to the importance of what I like to call positive change agents. What is a change agent? Well, a change agent is anyone who is willing to step outside the status quo and manage the friction of doing it. That's hard, though, because the status quo wants you to fit into a certain box. In fact, oftentimes these expectations come whether they're from our boss, our peers, or our reports, and if we don't meet those expectations, we're quickly out of a job. However, as I mentioned, our world is changing rapidly. which creates the necessity for leaders who are willing to step outside of status quo and manage that friction, so it's not just heat and light, but it actually is beginning to move an organization forward in a positive direction. Now, some say the root of the word leadership is the word leet, which means to be sent unto death. And you might say, well, where does that come from? Well, in ancient Greece, the leets were the ones that carried the flag in front of the melee army, the army on the ground. And that was all well and good, except if you were the flag bearer and your army came across another army, guess who was the first to die? The flag bearers, the leets, the leaders. And so when you think about leadership, it's thinking about going outside of expectations, but recognizing you may be metaphorically killed, or you may actually be physically killed. Nelson Mandela said his most trying moment as a leader was when he had to turn to his own party, the African National Congress, and convince them to make peace with the white minority. He almost had a coup from his own party. Isaac Rabin, an Israeli, when he said to his own Israeli citizens, we want to make peace with the Palestinians, he unfortunately was assassinated by a fellow Israeli. And so I raise that because oftentimes leaders, if they're not careful enough, will incur too much friction in an organization or in a society and not be able to bring people along to the vision and to the promise of where they're trying to go. Now, all of us can be change agents. We don't have to ask permission. We don't have to be formally assigned. What we do have to do is figure out what do we do in our organization that may have scarce resources, that may have legacy processes, that may have certain ways of doing things that no longer fit what we need to do in the world ahead. And that gets to the points of you, because all of you here at this summit can be positive change agents. You just need to make sure you have a strategy. And how do you inform that strategy? Well, you listen and learn. Take the time to hear different perspectives. Try to synthesize them. You're not going to make everybody happy. And in fact, several times you're going to be pulled in multiple directions. And so you've got to be brave, you've got to be bold, and most importantly, benevolent. One of the things that I'll leave you with is a quote from a poem called If by Rudyard Kipling. That poem's been with me since I was 20. My father gave me a copy. It's been with me when I responded to the tragic events of 9/11, when I responded to the events of anthrax in 2001, later when I was actually in Afghanistan in 2009, and other situations that were very turbulent environments, and there were definitely different pulls as to what to do from all sides of the issue. And the two lines I'll leave you with are this: if you can keep your head about you when all are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men and women doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. Those are the keys, in my opinion, to being a change agent. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being at the summit. I wish I could be there with you in person, but thanks for letting me be there virtually. And again, we're going to need more positive change agents for our exponentially changing world ahead. Thank you.